We are the Good Doctors of Abbey Research. I'm Dr. Hinson.
I'm Dr. Donnelly.
And we are here with our continued coverage of Netflix's show The Crown. And today we are talking about Season 2, Episode 2, A Company of Men. Full disclosure, we are a little bit tired of this season already. This is Episode 2, and we're spending a lot of time on Philip, which looks like might be the theme of the whole season.
It's so much time with Philip.
I'm so glad that a show that's supposed to be called The Crown and be about the person who wears the crown
is instead about a petulant toddler boy who is upset that he doesn't have power. Sorry, showing our cards a little bit.
Playing our cards a little bit. The sad tale of a overly privileged white man is not something we are super keen to spend time watching.
Now, Matt Smith is knocking it out of the park.
I love Matt Smith.
Because Matt Smith, I fell in love with him as the Doctor, in which he is a charm factory.
Yeah, I don't know where I fell in love with Matt Smith. It probably was The Crown, but he's adorable.
I love him as a person, and I think he is, what we know of him.
Genuine human.
Seems to be a charmer. So that he's making me hate Philip this much means he's doing his job.
Yep.
So essentially, Philip is on his tour in which he gets everything he wants and leaves Elizabeth to deal with everything she doesn't want to do.
He is on his tour in Australia. Mm-hmm. The episode opens with a narrative that his private secretary, Mike Parker, has sent a letter to the Thursday Lunch Club.
It's a bad idea.
Detailing and even exaggerating, but certainly detailing some stories of the exploits that the Duke and Mike are getting up to on this tour, and talking a lot about cheating on their wives.
So at this point in British history, or world history to be completely frank, Britain is slowly losing its world power ship.
Yes.
Like there's drama in Egypt.
Lots of dramas in Egypt.
That is, when you look back at the dissolution of the British Empire, this was one of the bigger tolling gongs. Like, them losing India.
The British Empire, yeah.
And them losing India, screwing up Eden and the Suez, and then all of the subsequent losing of the countries in Africa. By the time we hit 1968, there's not really an empire.
No.
There's Commonwealth, but there's not really an empire. And we're getting very close to that in this show.
Yeah.
So
I think that's interesting, the politics and the protests that are going on in Egypt, I find interesting. They could have done it in smaller snippets. I didn't need to see cabinet meetings.
Right.
With Anthony Eden.
Yeah, I never need to see Anthony Eden ever again.
No.
But this is my thing with Philip. So if you watched Downton Abbey and you were frustrated that every single time something new was happening, the Lord Grantham got all on his high horse about the changing times of Britain. Season 2 of The Crown is going to be a little rough for you. Because that's all. Philip is Lord Grantham.
And he is not adjusting
at all
to the changes in his own life.
Or in the life of the world.
At all. Well, he's actually a little bit more progressive about the changes in the world.
But not the changes of, British privilege. He still thinks that I think, that he deserves all the trappings of being king of the world.
Correct. He does.
So, but does he he understands television, he gets indigenous protest-ish, not really, maybe.
He's still racist.
He's still racist, but, sure. And that's, by the way, his current reputation as a human is a charming yet dotty old racist. So he comes by that naturally.
If you just want to Google all the inappropriate things he said to indigenous people that were once part of the empire or still part of the Commonwealth, you just have some fun reading his statements.
Check out The Guardian. There's lots of summaries.
Keep track of all of the things that he said.
Charming man. Dotty old racist.
Dotty old racist at this stage. So what else happens in this episode? Oh yeah, Mike Parker's wife goes to a lawyer to see about divorce. And we spend some time dealing with the fact that how difficult it is for a woman to obtain a divorce at this period in history.
And spoiler alert, currently it is very difficult for a woman to obtain a divorce in Britain still.
Yes. So we learned that she needs proof. Mm-hmm. And that she can't just say she's unhappy. That's not good enough.
No.
So it has to be neglect or adultery.
Irreconcilable differences is still not a legal acceptable legal thing for divorce.
In the UK?
In the UK.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Huh. So they haven't come along that far.
No.
So she needs evidence of his infidelity. So she goes to the lunch club and confronts one of the waitresses and says, look, I know my husband is cheating on me. I need your help. You hear what these men say all the time, blah, blah, blah.
Moment for the sisterhood.
Yeah. The waitress is like, I can't help you, I'm sorry. And then she shows up later. She steals a letter, the letter that we heard being read at the beginning of the episode, and gives it to the wife. So thus providing the proof for adultery. Eden is sick and decides to go to Jamaica while Egypt is on fire. So he is the worst prime minister at the time, one of the worst ever. He's like, no, sorry, I need my halls because I have an ulcer, which I'm sure is really painful, but also you're the prime minister.
I've had them and managed to do my graduate school work, so I imagine.
Similarly to the work that's needed for a prime minister. And then we start to get the royal household involved in all of this kerfuffle for the divorce.
So there's a couple, this is where the show, I think, wants us to, and we talked about this, spoiler alert, we have discussions before the camera rolls.
This is all just a little bit staged.
We talked about this offline, but the show wants us to be very sympathetic to Philip. That his life is very difficult.
Yes.
That his childhood was awful.
We
now,
learn
zero
in this
people,
episode a lot more about how awful his childhood was.
His childhood was atrocious.
That whole interaction with the reporter, and she brings up everything that happened to him, Nazi connections, dead parents, all of it. It's horrible.
It's not great.
It's not great. It really, really explains why he doesn't ever feel like he has a family.
And it explains a lot of the way that he is the way he is.
But
yes, and so it's a challenge to see that and then not have the balance. Like, if you guys want to do a deep dive for us into the character of Philip, I'm here for it. I love character studies. Give us the same thing with Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Like, they're not heretofore. They're not balancing it. So my thing with Philip is that I want a character study. I'm so excited to know how deep they're going with him. But we need to balance it with Elizabeth.
We don't get enough.
And so I don't know if they think because we've spent all this much time with Elizabeth and we saw her father but they're wrong. They're wrong. There's not enough Lizzie. Yeah. And Claire Foy's face is showing me a lot of how frustrated she is with this and how really awful this all is, but ugh.
And I feel like part of it is because she doesn't have an outlet to talk
True.
To talk things over with. So they gave Philip his relationship with Mike Parker for the foreseeable future. And it, certainly in the first season as his outlet to be able to have an external dialogue about some of his struggles. And they didn't give that to Elizabeth. She can't talk to Margaret. Margaret's a tool. Her mom is way too conservative. She can't talk to her about difficulties, but she can't talk to her private secretary. So as a show, as writers, they've given the character no outlet. So all we see are her facial expressions, which Claire Foy is amazing at. But we're not getting more than that. So, in this episode, we can clearly see that she's, hurt that Philip is having a good time without her. But she has nobody to express that to. So we don't get any more of her character. We just get her face that's clearly, acting the crap out of it.
Yeah. But I don't know, have her talk to the corgis or something. If you can't, she doesn't have a friend. Cool, historically, if that's fine. But have her do a diary. There are there are narrative devices.
Yeah, that we could illustrate some more of this with, so that it's not just the Philip show, but it maintains to be the Philip show. Mm-hmm. The two private secretaries, Michael and Martin, begin to discuss the impact that the divorce will have on the royal marriage, which is their primary concern. So we're...
It's yes, and everybody go do one. Because, so Mike Parker is an atrocious human being. He has been awful to his wife. Mm-hmm. Just let her go.
But clearly, the implication is, if he has been doing these things, and the prince has been in his presence, the prince has been doing these things. And he already has a reputation as a bit of a cad. So... we're setting things up clearly for the next episode. We don't know. Lots of drama. And then we have the Christmas. This is the Christmas. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Christmas messages, which was actually quite lovely.
It was lovely.
Like, Philip's address, like, he whinges about it the whole time. Like, I'm sorry, you married into the royal family. Like, this is not a surprise. Now you have to do a Christmas speech. Like, just effing do it. But it's actually really lovely. He says that he misses his family. And then Elizabeth, in her response, assures him that he has a family. So we understand all of this a lot more, especially from the narrative background we're given about Prince Philip, that he has never really felt like he has one. And she's one of the few people that understands that. And then he goes back at the end and reads her note that she left with the home movie video machine, whatever it's called, back in the 1950s. And he goes back and rereads the note, which the first time he read it, he clearly thought he was being, like, admonished, like, keep the line. But now he rereads it after her thing, and he's, aw, she's telling me I always have a family. So it ends on a rather lovely note.
Yeah.
I guess. It's hard. Like, this balance between Philip and, like, Philip as he behaves and Philip clearly as they love each other.
Yeah.
We're supposed to feel sympathetic towards him and empathetic towards his background. But there's a certain stage where we don't get to feel that empathy for Elizabeth. Like, she's never allowed to be human. She's never allowed to make mistakes. And she knows it. And so she just sucks it up. So, like...
It's all a little bit messy.
How many episodes do we have to watch of Philip going through this cycle before he cops on and just starts doing his job?
And
like, do your job.
And historically, we know that Margaret's marriage is coming up, like, in the timeline of history. Spoiler.
Sorry. If you're like watching this and not looking things up on Wikipedia, God bless you. But
sorry,
she gets married.
She gets married, and that's coming. And so, like, in timeline of the show, are we going to get any Elizabeth time before we dive back into Margaret's marriage? Probably not.
Who knows? Who knows? But that's what we have for episode 2.
In the Company of Men.
In the Company of Men. We will see what shenanigans these boys get up to on their Antarctic adventures in episode 3. Coming up next.
I'm Dr. Donnelly.
I'm Dr. Hinson.
And we'll see you in episode 3.
Bye.
Bye.